The Trump town hall fallout is still ongoing at CNN. The network's veteran anchor Christiane Amanpour says she disagrees with the decision to host the event and had a very robust exchange of views with CNN boss Chris Licht over the matter. To the audience, she says, "I can only hope that your trust in us might have been shaken, but not shattered." As reported by CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy, Amanpour also said, "I still respectfully disagree with allowing Donald Trump to appear in that particular format."
Journalist Glenn Greenwald commented on the matter, tweeting, "This is why there's no reforming CNN. It's fundamentally corrupted. It's flagrantly become a partisan network, anti-Trump, pro-DNC. Dissent to the liberal establishment line is rarely aired. So many CNN employees want Trump banned for the same reason the DNC wouldn't host him." Amber, what's your take?
I agree with Glenn Greenwald, I guess. We don't agree on a lot, but we do agree on the corruption of media, and especially corporate mainstream media. I mean, CNN is a news network, at least it's supposed to be. And the idea that they have all of these people internally causing grief over the idea of platforming who's most likely going to be the Republican nominee and has already served as president is ridiculous. I mean, there might be squabbles to be had over how well prepared Caitlin Collins was or what their particular format was, but there's people within CNN who are taking issue with the fact that they interviewed Trump at all. That's bonkers to me. You're a newsmaking organization. It's your job. That's journalism. You're supposed to talk to people of importance and try to get information out of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks have put so much pressure on this town hall. I believe the figure was 3 million viewers, which is not a city that's less than 1% of the country. And so I think it was a bit blown out of proportion. And all of this hysteria surrounding the town hall is giving it more attention. It's having the opposite consequence to what it seems that these liberal types that are extremely outraged, how they feel about it. Their expression of discontent is probably going to lead to more people being aware of the town hall and what Donald Trump said during the town hall. And I know that their goal is, okay, well, if we make a big deal about this and we make it very clear that many of us believe it was deeply wrong that CNN platformed Trump, that they would not do it in the future. I just really don't see a world where the cast of The View is going to influence the decisions by mainstream media companies. I really don't. And that's how I see this. It's really just folks who are liberals who want the news to be reflective of the bubble that they live in. And it's just not reality. They also fail to understand that working class people want something different than establishment candidates who are polite all of the time. And I don't like Donald Trump, and I don't think Donald Trump is the answer. But I think having CNN be allowed to air all of the presidential candidates running is the answer. And unfortunately, that includes Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it also includes, of course, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as well as Marianne Williamson, who apparently aren't even going to be able to get a debate with the Democratic National Committee, which I think is a huge shame. I hope that on the Republican side, all of the primary candidates are able to participate as well. And I think moving forward, CNN has to think about this criticism from their employees and what would be the logical conclusion of what they're saying. Basically, if CNN were to not platform Donald Trump, they would not be able to air any of his speeches, any of his rallies. They wouldn't be able to be involved in future debates, whether as moderators or hosts of that debate. Their anchors wouldn't be able to allow him on the network to interview him. And the whole point of interviewing a subject is to be able to not just get information, but also if you're a liberal network, as CNN has apparently fashioned itself as, aren't you going to want to ask him directly about your concerns? And that's what Caitlin Collins did during that town hall. I think she did it way too much. I mean, she spent about 20 minutes on the January 6th riot and the 2020 election, which only further gave him more opportunity to talk about what apparently, according to these CNN reporters and hosts, is so disgusting that it shouldn't have been platformed. So maybe it was more CNN's strategy that was the issue here. I wish that they would have asked more questions about actual things concerning Americans, because when you ask Americans about January 6th and 2020 election fraud, that is what, number 15 on their list of most important issues right now. How about we ask Donald Trump about his plan to fix the economy? How about the crisis at the southern border? How about the politicization of the FBI and the DOJ? How about the fact that our supply chain is still recovering from the pandemic? I mean, all of these other top-of-line issues. Crime, oh my gosh. I mean, crime in cities, at least violent crime, is up in New York, in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., so many other things that were worth talking about. And they wasted so much time trying to prove their liberal bona fides. And guess what? It backfired, because the people who are concerned about platforming Donald Trump are not going to be happy with Caitlin Collins or Chris Lick, no matter what they do.
Yeah, the top two issues, when polled, of folks who are likely voters when it comes to the presidential election in 2024, cost of living and jobs in the economy. Obviously, those two are connected. And for Caitlin Collins to ask about January 6th and the 2020 election and give Trump a platform to respond, okay, yeah, we should focus on the more substantive issues for sure. But the criticism coming from liberals, it just seems to be a rejection of reality. I'm just mad that Donald Trump is a front runner again. I'm just mad that he's running again. And so I'm going to blame CNN. Who are the decision makers of power in this case? Why are you not upset if you're very angry that we have a rise of folks who are white supremacists, who are fascists in the United States, who don't believe in the integrity of our elections, Donald Trump being the figurehead of that faction of the Republican Party, of the right in the United States? If you're upset about that and you find it to be dangerous, you should be angry at Merrick Garland for failing to prosecute him for inciting an insurrection, if that's what you're mad at Donald Trump about. But to be angry at CNN for just hosting a town hall when he's running for public office again and not criticizing Merrick Garland or anyone who is in a position of power to do something about the rise of fascism and Donald Trump, I'm sorry, but it doesn't hit the same. You're mad at the wrong people, the people that can't really make a decision on whether or not Donald Trump is allowed to continue to run his mouth. CNN doesn't have the power to do that. Our legal system and the DOJ does, and they've failed.
There's also this common refrain or narrative that the media companies were responsible for Trump getting elected in 2016 because they gave him so much airtime and coverage. And perhaps that's what this is in response to. And yes, Donald Trump was fantastic for corporate media ratings. But let's be honest, in the 2 years or 3 years since he's been out of office, 2 years, 2.5, he is only on Truth Social. He's not on Facebook or Twitter. He basically only gives interviews to Fox News. And yet somehow he is still dominating the Republican field. So the idea that the media is complicit in his rise to power, I just don't think comports with reality when we see that he's still incredibly popular after they've given him as much attention.
Yeah, I think it's something that they're willing to more easily stomach. The idea that because, Trump was such a funny guy and he said all of these absurd things, and so whenever he was on the news, more people watched, they tuned in, because it was entertainment just as much as it was entertainment on any other channel. I don't think that's reflective of reality. I think there's a lot of people in the United States that have watched elected officials run on policy platforms that as soon as they get into office, they forget about, and they don't make the lives of the American people materially better. People see their children doing worse than they've done. They see themselves doing worse economically in the country than their parents have. And they are fearful and hateful and confused. And when you have someone like Donald Trump who can weaponize that fear and hate into a political movement, you have something dangerous. And it's a lot easier to say, well, it's because CNN gave him all of this coverage. That's why we have someone like Donald Trump in office, instead of interrogating what's actually happening among the people living in our country, which is a bigger and more difficult problem to deal with, but it's the necessary one if we are to prevent for people like Donald Trump becoming president in the future.
Yeah, I would disagree that Trump is dangerous or tapping into hate, or I forget what the other term you used was, fear. But I do agree with the sentiment that Trump was addressing real concerns of Americans, and that's why he became popular, not because the media was giving him too much attention. We're going to have to leave this discussion there, but we'll be back with more Rising after this.